Welcome to the 702 Gaming Podcast, episode number 14.
Look at
All
us.
right.
Huh?
I like that. It's getting up there.
I know, we're getting up there. The three J's are all together again.
Right?
Feels good.
JJJ.
We got Jacob, Jason, and Josh.
Yes.
Hey yo.
Hello,
I don't know if
chums.
that's gonna catch on. Yeah, I feel like I need to be like starting to come with like a consistent
Feel like you
hello
don't.
or yeah.
I think
So
hello
we-
is
I'm just
cool.
gonna silently sit here and just stare into Jacob's soul. Just like-
I'm gonna
Yep.
edit
it's like
him.
I'm here.
I'm gonna edit him right out. So
Okay.
Don't worry about it. Yeah. We won't ever
All
see
right.
that. Yeah.
What
this
have you
is
guys
awesome.
been playing video game wise lately? Let's go with Josh first.
So like recently I was playing a lot of Need for Speed. I don't know if we talked about that.
I
The
don't think so. Which one?
The Need for Speed Heat.
Oh,
So
Heat. Okay.
it went down and got discounted in the Steam store, and then I picked it up. My brother saw it, and then it was like $17. So played through it, pretty much beat it.
Is it
Maybe
fun?
did myself, huh?
Is it fun? Because I missed that sale.
Oh no, it's a blast. It. I'm pretty much done with it now.
Mhm.
So I didn't have. I mean, it was like a 4 or 5 week game for me.
Okay.
It didn't like.
That's worth
it-
$17.
Yeah, you know,
Right.
and it did have a lot more depth in it that surprised me. I may have done myself a disservice playing it by like kind of going on YouTube and seeing what the best things were,
Yeah.
and then I ended up just like picking the best car in the game right away and doing it the most efficiently. But I did have fun doing it, and that was kind of the intention anyway, because I don't have a lot of time to be completionist on that game anyway. Other things were coming up.
What car was it?
The Porsche. It was like the like 91 Porsche, one of the Carrera editions.
Yeah.
I believe it was one of the focuses on the one of the. Didn't Need for Speed put out a strictly like Porsche
They did.
era game,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
Didn't they?
I forgot about
So,
that. Yeah.
I remember playing that, and so this one kind of drove and felt like that. The game was really centered around torque. It seemed like, because most of the races and things the way you get from the cops. Now the transitions, it does like you do this whole race at night, race at day thing. Race at nights for like your reputation points and do all that, and that's the end game unlockable. And then the daytime you get cash to be able to buy your parts and do all that. But you can go into the game, you're driving out in the map because it's open world in the daytime, and then you just kind of like go to your map, you switch to days, and your car like and the screen flips over, and then when it does the full 360, it turns to night, and it's boom, and it's pretty seamless. It's really like a small part of the game, but it's one of the best features, I think.
Nice.
That's
Because
cool.
you just click it, it does the screen does a 180, it does it again, it transitions to your car at night with all the lighting and everything, and then you just drive off.
And so is it like during the day it's legal, at night it's illegal racing, or
Like,
what?
and then the
Okay.
cops chase you at night. They all get on you, and you get your heat level up, and then that's how you get the end game parts. The depth I liked was and surprised me was like within the engines. So each car you were able to unlock and get multiple engines. Now within that you had your base upgrades like on your chassis and your drivetrain, and then within the engine you can change the crankshaft, the ECU, the turbos. You know, you put the certain NOS bottles on it. So there's a couple different layers there. And but it turns out like the engine part combos, it's not exactly the very last unlockable engine and all the best parts to get the best performance out of the car for the game. So it's pretty cool though. It was I enjoyed that lighting and the way the night driving is. There's a lot of graphics on your screen though, so you do run into like night traffic, and that's the only thing. Like, but if it wasn't there, you'd just be going like 230 miles an hour the whole time, and just like I'm driving through and running away from the cops. It kind of needs it. It's frustrating at times, but enjoyable.
So that
Sounds cool, though.
switch that it does, you're saying that's
Yeah.
seamless, right? Does that happen in race?
No, you have to do it like you're driving out in the open world.
Right.
You open the map and you say switch to day,
Oh,
and
okay.
it kind of like brings the audio down a little bit. It's like, and then it starts the flip transition. It's like,
Okay.
boom, and it
And I was
Goes
like, man, I would not
night.
want that in game. That'd be horrible.
No,
Like,
you can't do it. Like in the middle of a race, you have to be in your map, like
okay,
sitting still.
okay.
But it's nice, and I mean, the story's okay. It's typical open world, Need for Speed kind of objective storyline, straight through linear. I wouldn't say that. I mean, and there's it's about the cars. There's a
Yeah, that's
ton of
cool.
cars on there. I bought the Nissan GTR. Got that, but it turns out that's not the best car. The Porsche is the best car because it's all about acceleration in that game. So maybe I got a little too sweaty with the game. I was just like, I want to know how to be the best right away. It's like I don't care about the rest. And, even some of the supercars can't compete with the Porsche because it just 0 to 60, 0 to 100 miles an hour. It's so fast,
Yeah.
and most of the cars on the game only go so fast. I don't know if the game's limited because it can't write that fast, especially like in the night thing when you're doing 230 in the game already. It's a blur. So
Yeah.
It's
no, but
interesting with driving games. You said it's linear, in an open world environment. I think we've been so like inundated with open world games that we like. In my opinion, I don't need a story in my driving game. I just want to race people.
Yeah.
Right. I do want a
I'm
city to race through, but like I don't care anyone's motivations or any of that type of stuff at all. Let's just race and have fun.
yeah, it became more about, and again, maybe it's just going after being the best of the best and getting the best stuff in the game possible. A little too sweaty for it, but I got the car with all the ultimate plus parts, I guess you would say, doing the end game content. So the end game content loop is pretty simple. You get your heat level up at night. You do a race at like heat level 3. That can get like an ultimate part. Or you can get your heat level up to the max to 5, where they're sending like the SWAT trucks and the helicopters after you and stuff. And then you do a race under that heat level, and that drops you the ultimate part. And it's random which part it gives you, but it never gives you repeats. So it's not that hard to collect all your parts.
Okay.
But to get home away from the cops, you might got to get a little cheesy and go hide in a parking garage or something. I'm not saying specifically you have to watch your own videos, but
Nice.
there's ways to like guarantee yourself to get away. But once I did that, I did that and still had like 4 story missions left. So it doesn't have to be part of it, but I mean the story missions felt like a side mission more or less anyway.
See, that's what I mean. I feel like certain games you don't need any kind of story at all. I mean, I used to say that about fighting games, but I don't necessarily feel like that anymore.
Right.
Like I love in-depth stories and lore and stuff like that in fighting games now. Definitely makes it more
Talking
interesting.
about lore.
All right. So, but I don't want that in Need for Speed.
No, well, I mean, and that kind of brings me to what I just started playing again this week is Destiny 2. They dropped all their stuff for February for their next DLC, and the new season came out. So,
what's the DLC called?
We'll really be on that grinding away. The Witch Queen. So,
and so that comes with a final dungeon, and
so they're gonna do they said they're gonna start doing a dungeon or a raid every 3 months on that, which is big for their co-op community that does that, and a lot of their streamer content because it's all end game stuff. The pinnacle end game content.
How are you liking it?
But that's how they sustain it because they keep adding that stuff. Oh, if Bungie keeps putting out the content the way they have been, I'll keep playing it. I mean, I really enjoy it. The story, even this season that just started, the story keeps progressing. It's kind of like if you were big on the Lord of the Rings story and lore, or even like Star Wars,
all of those. Yes.
I feel like Destiny's universe now is just ever expanding, and I get to play through that story as it's happening in real time almost. It does have, in some of our opinions, that it's too drip feed-esque, and we just want to like drop it all at once and let me play through it, and then okay, cool, let me know when the next stuff is ready in the oven. But to me they're unmatched with their storyline, their storytelling, their artwork, and even their presentations. Even if you're not a fan of the game, if you go watch like their Vidocs and their DLC releases and stuff like that, it's a show, and they really do pull it off, because I think at the heart of it, I know sometimes the game gets flack because some problems or whatever, but the artwork and the storytelling really are one of the main pillars of the game. And if that keeps coming, and the connection and immersion you feel in the game is not going to go away. It's a main mechanic too. So that's like second pillar. It's always just trying to keep everybody happy.
Well, I
So
saw
balancing
one of the
sandboxes.
trailers, and I think it's the Witch Queen herself. She's walking towards a pool of water, and it's like she has wings that are kind of like a robe. And as they drag behind her and she goes into this water, like the wings like flop down into the water, and you just see the splashing
It
coming
looks
out.
so sick. Right?
I mean, yeah,
That looks
like
sick.
it is, the gaming CGI is better than any movie CGI that I've seen. Like as far as like full scope, the
Right.
whole thing is CGI.
Right.
Games just, man,
Yeah.
that trailer was just like amazing visually.
I say
That's what I
they're
said.
getting real close to their trailers rivaling Diablo and
Yeah.
World of Warcraft.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
WoW has like amazing trailers, and so does like EverQuest. Some of those trailers, you're just like, oh my man, if the game
You're right. That game
just
does too.
looked like this, right? We're always going to say that. When do we get the game that looks like the trailer? So,
Well, I feel like the trailers are like the box art on our old games, where the box art was so amazing, and then once you plugged it in, you're
well,
like, this
Yeah.
8-bit game is
okay. Don't go trashing my 8-bit games right now, okay? Because
no, and it's not even a bash. I think it helps the trailers. I know some people get upset when the trailers way better than the game, and
right.
or the box art might, but it kind of expands, like you were saying, Josh, with like the lore and just like the storytelling. It kind of expands your imagination about what you're playing,
Right.
and lets you feel more like you're in the game because you saw that stuff and you're like,
Right.
wow, it's
Yeah. And those
brings
are
you into it.
like cutscenes mainly for Destiny. That's kind of how they convey the story to you while you're playing it. So I mean, I just get to keep playing this ever expanding universe story, like I said, Star Wars esque, Lord of the Rings esque. It's just ever expanding, and their writers are amazing. So, they get my money, and I find a lot of enjoyment with it, as a FPS, and kind of the co-op mainly, I guess. The end game co-op stuff is challenging and frustrating, but that satisfaction
But like
pulling
if
those
you
things
liked
off.
that gameplay, and they just, even if it is a drip feed, if they're just bringing you something new over and
And
over,
you're
it
enjoying
brings
it.
you back. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
having a good time.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it seems like their model now, it could be maybe they don't have the people, or maybe that's just this is the way it's going to be, for timing of releasing content. um I'm all good with it, because like you said, even if I take a break, it's like I know that they're coming out with something new. So
Yeah.
they kind of, in a way, they have a lifetime customer, but I'm more
You hear that,
of a
Bungie?
lifetime
Right.
fan.
Yeah,
Was that?
don't say that until we get sponsored, bro.
You hear that, Bungie? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Because they're
Well, I
listening.
mean, but more of that lifetime fan, like anything else in our lives of sports or music, things like that. Their artwork, their writing and storytelling, you know, that doesn't quite look like the game yet. No, that'd be amazing.
Right.
There's probably way too much going on in this game for that, but something
Right.
would be
It's a good looking game though.
right.
It
And
is a
then,
good looking game.
but no, that's how the trailers are in game, exactly the way we saw it there.
Cool.
So it's pretty cool, because now we're like, oh god, I can't wait to see more of that
Right.
while I'm
Yeah.
playing the cutscene, after I just killed that boss or finished this room of enemies to see what the boss is about to do, or those animations, and they can be more creative, I think, in those spaces, because then I don't have to actually play against them. So if they wanted to do like introduce a boss a certain way, like, you know, on a stage, you know, sometimes bosses will like break down a door, come through and like, let's go,
You
you
look like a
know.
boss right there. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I wanted to take
I
you
mean,
down.
that might be like a little of the, you know, 80s 90s kidding me the way that they do that,
That's what it feels like, though. Yeah.
but in most games when you do end game content and have the big bosses like that, you know, they have entrances and stuff like that, and it
Right.
kind of adds to the excitement. You're like, oh, it's about
Yeah,
to go
it's time.
down.
It's time.
It's like, oh my god. I'd be like,
Presentation is there.
yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jason, what have you been up to? Have you played Aliens Fire Team?
I have not played it yet, purposely. I put this out as a tweet like the other day. Um, is it worrisome for anyone else to have a brand new game that releases for $39.99? Right? The reason I'm saying that is because we are now accustomed to, you know, $80 games almost. And if you get a special edition, it's $100, you know, because you get a, I don't know,
Yeah.
statue with it or something. So
Yep.
um I honestly have been a little apprehensive because of that. Also because I'm such a fan of Aliens and I've been so thoroughly disappointed over the last few years with everything Aliens. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna wait, you know. And at that price point, it's not like, you know, oh, the price is gonna go back up. No, it's already cheap enough. So, you know,
That's true.
Yeah.
it's not too big of a deal to hold off on it. I am amped to do it though. I'm amped to play it. I also think it's a little weird. I don't know if it's just me, but 3-player co-op.
Yeah, instead of the 4.
Like,
3.
yeah, aren't we? We are absolutely accustomed to
The 2
4-player.
or 4. Yeah.
Right.
I'm actually accustomed to 3.
What are you playing that's
Destiny is
3-player?
3 and 6.
Uh,
Yeah.
3 and 6.
Destiny's fire teams to do their like day-to-day content
Uh-huh.
is three-man fire team for a dungeon, 6-man for a raid. You
Mm.
do 3-man nightfalls.
That
It's all
yeah,
PvP is 6.
I'm accustomed to 4 and
There
you
is a
know,
game mode that's 4, but it's only one off, like kind of most of it's 3-man team.
well, I wouldn't have known that. Like as much co-op as I do. Yeah, it's like 4, you know, 4 in a squad. And again, this is not a breaking point at all because to be honest, I will be playing it with 2 other people. I'm just saying it was something weird. But as far as something that I am specifically playing right now, and I'm so excited that I got this. I finally picked up Metroid 2 for the original Game Boy.
Be afraid. Be very afraid. One life-sucking Metroid survived the first Metroid adventure, and it's multiplying rapidly. You must help Samus save the universe again in Metroid 2. So we're giving you more power and mightier weapons to search a bigger world where hundreds of strange enemy life forms lurk. Destroy or be destroyed.
Metroid 2, The Return of Samus, only on Game Boy.
The future is in your hands.
And I've been playing that in anticipation for the new Metroid coming out.
Nice.
Okay, so I'm like, you know, if, you know, when the new Star Wars comes out, I make sure to watch all of the originals, right, to get me like geared up. So, yeah, so I'm playing that right now and realizing, oh yeah, man, you get lost a lot in Metroid. Like part of the game is being lost and not knowing where you are, and there's no map in there at all. So you start out on the ship and it's like, have forth. Your mission is to march to the right, right? And you just kind of figure it out from there. So I'm playing that right now. I am back into Street Fighter 4. So I've been grinding away with my Akuma to get better with certain combos. I've been playing Street Fighter 3 as well.
You're playing these on what?
On the arcade.
Arcade. Okay.
Yeah. So I jumped from there to online to be competitive, you know,
Okay.
against other people. But again, just a quick taste of online where you're like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm gonna stop and go back to the arcade. All I need is just a quick reminder. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm cool. I've been playing a lot of Killer Instinct 2, which is a phenomenal game. It didn't get as much credit as it deserved. Even with the port over to the Nintendo 64 when it got it. That was Killer Instinct Gold. So I'm doing the original on the arcade. What else am I playing? in
Killer Instinct 2.
yeah.
Boulder Station.
Yeah. Man, I used to
You're going back.
Boulder
Boulder
Station was the
Station
smallest
Arcade.
arcade, dude. It was so small, but for some reason, because it was so much fun, you're like, this is amazing. It was like a closet. It's like
Yeah.
barely anything. And there's dudes making CD transactions in the back, and you're like, I don't want to go over there, but I'll just stick to
It was in a couple different places at Boulder. I remember it was like
it was by the movie
yeah,
theater, I thought.
yeah, like when we first started going there, it was like at the right off the main entrance by the sports book, and it
Mhm.
was like that closet.
Yeah.
And then it moved over by the movie theater, and then they made it bigger because they could
Mhm.
add skee ball machines and other stuff. And there was like that big back area.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
no, go back there.
I think that's when like the second rendition of that game came out. So the two cabinet would have been in that back
Yeah.
theater area. Yeah.
I used to play it in there in the
Oh my
back.
God. We were
Yeah.
probably like back to back
Right.
playing different games in that
Wait a minute.
arcade.
Were you that one guy?
It might have been. But I didn't play Killer Instinct too much. I stayed on the X-Men.
Children of the Atom? Was it the fighter
huh?
or the 4-player?
The fighter.
Yeah, that was Children of the Atom at the around that time.
Yeah.
That's a good game. Had Omega Red in there, which is awesome for anyone who's a Marvel fan like myself. The other thing that I'm playing is in VR right now, and
Okay.
I'm so excited for this. Okay? And anyone who's, I mean, this game has been out for a while, just on PC. I believe it released also on consoles, but it's Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and love the game. If anyone's played Castle Wolfenstein, you know what it's about, right? You're shooting Nazis down, which is always awesome. But you find out that Hitler and the Nazis have been uh, dabbling in the paranormal, and they're trying to use these different spells and stuff to raise monsters and or turn their troops into these things to help them win the war. But playing it in VR is something completely different. That makes the game. It's hard to even explain, like most VR, but to not be on a flat screen with a mouse and keyboard, to actually be in the world, so you're actually able to look around in that third dimension. Man, the game is amazing, and it has one of the more important things to a lot of the population who gets sick or gets that motion sickness. It has teleport option. So not just smooth movement, which is normally what gets you like, whoa, where your head is like, why isn't your body moving? But we're moving forward. So because this is a port, but it's not done by the makers of the game. It's actually done by a guy. I think his name is like Mr. Beef, which is just awesome in itself.
What?
Mr. Beef.
Mr. Beef.
Shout out.
Yeah, seriously, shout out. That guy is phenomenal. He takes
He's what's
PC
for
games.
dinner.
I'm not eating him, by the way. Mr. Beef, shout out, but I don't want to eat you. I promise. But he takes PC games and he ports them over into VR. I don't know how that's done. It seems like it would be so much work, but there's so many games that he's done that with. But this one specifically is it's phenomenal, man. Phenomenal. A full-fledged PC game, not just a VR game. So yeah, I've been rocking those.
That's pretty dope.
Well, before we jump over to VR talk, because I do want to talk more about that, let me just tell you what I've been playing was this game 12 Minutes. Have you heard about this game?
Yes. I saw it on your Twitter feed.
Yeah, so it's an interesting game. It's a top-down view, and it's kind of a point and click, but when you point and click, you can tell your character, step here, grab this. You can grab things out of your inventory and drag them to something else to see what your character does with it. And so it's got this cool, like old school feel to it that way. But basically, you're just playing in this apartment, and it's just the apartment, a bathroom, a closet, and your bedroom. And when you get home, you go in, and your wife comes out of the restroom and says, "Oh, hey, good to see you," or whatever. She made you dessert. You can choose to start eating the dessert. You can choose different conversations with her, and uh, it kind of goes from there. Well, a police ends up banging on the door and wants in. When you open the door, he zip ties your wife, her hands, and arrests, or like, puts her down on the floor, and then does the same to you, and now you're both zip tied on the floor. Well, things get out of hand really quickly, and depending on what you do or depending on your choices prior, um, things could go south real quick. Uh, there's a
I'd
multitude
venture to
of
say they're
things.
already south at this point, right?
So I think if you hit the 12-minute mark, it's like a Groundhog Day. You restart and you walk back into the apartment. And if something happens to you, you start back in the apartment. So, and your wife and this policeman don't remember anything every time. So every time you're starting it back over, but now you have a little bit more information. So it opens up more dialogue options or ideas for you to do things within the apartment. And you just start branching it out from there. You try out different things. And I made sure that I didn't look up any spoilers or any
Good
like
man.
walkthroughs or anything like that,
You hear that,
because
Josh?
No, I went right over my head.
I like
but
it.
I already beat the game because while I was looking up on the YouTube video right now.
Well, the reason I didn't do that was just the story was so interesting to me, and it was so fun to experiment on my own with, hey, what if I do this? What if I do that? And I won't get into any spoilers, but because the story takes some twists that you don't see coming, and it's pretty interesting. Some made me bust out laughing, some made me sick.
What's the rating on this game? You're making me kind of nervous.
Right.
What's the rating? Oh, it's
Yeah.
got to be triple X.
No,
No,
oh.
it's probably.
Oh,
Whoa.
holy crap.
Yeah, I bought this at the adult store.
Right.
No, this I would assume it's at least teen, if not mature,
I wouldn't say
just
it was
because of the
teen.
cursing.
Mhm.
It's it does have a little bit of violence in it if you choose to do so, and there is cursing throughout, so
Used to do
there is that. Yeah, because you can choose to do some
Wait,
stuff
okay,
that I was like, let me just see
chose-
if I can do
he
this,
just
and I was
got-
like,
Is it?
like,
He
oh,
chose.
Right. Right.
hey, you
Yeah.
got to experiment.
Okay.
But the
Oh,
voice
no.
acting in it
Wow.
is really a great cast of voice actors, because a lot of the story is just coming from that. And so you play the husband, and it's James McAvoy, and your wife is Daisy Ridley, and the
From Star
cop
Wars,
is
right?
Willem Dafoe. Yeah,
Okay. And
Oh,
William
so-
the cop is
Dafoe.
Defoe.
Hey,
Willem Dafoe. I mean, he
That's my
steals the
guy.
show by far. I mean,
that's
his
the Green
voice
Goblin.
and everything.
So
Oh
Yes.
God, I hope the Green Goblin. Don't
Green
start
Goblin,
about-
right?
I'm just- oh my God.
Let me just say, the Green Goblin hurt me many times in the game.
Nice.
Many times. When he comes to the door, you're genuine in a mini panic of, what do I do? I was trying to do all this stuff. I know he's coming, and I know Whitney's coming, and I tried to do all this stuff, and then you hear that banging on the door. So there's different things, different ways of locking doors or hiding certain ways, or just saying different things to try and save yourself or get more information. And it's really interesting. Like, for example, this isn't really a spoiler, but at one point you find some sleeping pills, and it's like, what do you do with the sleeping pills? So naturally, I drugged my wife, right? So that's the first thing you do, right?
Hey,
So
when we're done today, I'm gonna call you on the phone just to see if your wife is okay. It's not really about you.
She's sleeping. She's
Right.
just taking a nap.
Naturally.
But so you could do that, and then like within a few minutes, she's like, I'm real tired, and she goes and passes out back into the back room, and but that leads to more options of what to do when the police gets there, and then that kind of leads to more options later down, and it's really interesting, and it takes some wild turns.
Wow. That's a wild turn right there.
It's pretty wild, and it's an interesting game, and if you like story type games, I couldn't recommend it enough. I played it for 2 days, and I think there's different endings. I didn't want to like explore every single ending, but I got to enough points where I was like comfortable finishing, saying I'm done with it. But it was cool, really cool game.
Let me ask you something about it.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a game where if you did it right, you could start the game and complete the game in one run.
So I had thought about that while I was playing it,
Mhm.
and I don't think so because I don't think so because a lot of the conversation opens up after your character himself discovers more information.
Okay.
If he hasn't found that, he doesn't know himself what's going on. And you
Okay.
can feel that, when things happen to you and boop, and it goes back to the beginning, he's depending on what happened to him, he might just be like, whoa, what just happened?
Mhm.
Or he might be like, oh my God, what, because he's in shock that he just went through whatever he went through.
Okay.
And I don't want to say everything. If people want to play it, I think people should play this game. I think it would be easier to play on a computer with mouse and keyboard because it is a point and click.
Mhm.
And sometimes you're in a hurry to get something done before the cop gets you or before your wife sees or
I was
whatever.
just going to ask you that. Like, it seems like
Yeah.
time is of
Yeah.
the essence for
It's
everything you do.
what's cool about it is it's not a scary game. It's not
That's
an
not
ultra
cool.
action game or anything, but it's like it's a suspense game. It's like a suspense movie
So,
where the music kind of if you pay attention to it, the music kind of builds up some suspense, and when things happen, the music kind of goes like violin streaks with it.
mhm.
So you say like a suspenseful puzzler, I
Yes.
guess.
Yeah.
So because I don't know what that genre would be outside of what I just said.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's
How they
good though,
feel
to
that way.
have either something that's one, not the norm, right? Because man, if another open world game releases, or if another first person shooter releases, like I'm gonna lose my mind, right? So sometimes it's important as gamers to take a chance on something new, because if you
Yeah.
don't complain that, oh, everyone, it's the same thing, right? It's the same game, it's the same game. So
Yeah.
take a
Oh,
chance
this
on
one's
something.
different. The endings,
Oh, you muted
they're
yourself right
different.
there.
This isn't Splice, but
That's what I was actually trying to see how I could ask you if it was anything to do with
this
that.
is not
Because
Splice.
yikes.
They should make a Splice video game though.
I feel like
in
they
VR.
shouldn't. No, in VR. Like I said, just go to the adult section on Steam for VR. That's splice enough. That's splice enough right there.
It's a great game though. I would suggest everyone check it out. 12 minutes.
Yeah. Is
So
that a full price
going
game?
back to it's cheap too. I want to say it's maybe $20.
Oh, $20 game.
See, this is
Yeah,
what
it's a cheap one, and that's on console. On Steam, it might be cheaper. I don't know. And it's
That's
also on Game Pass. So, yeah.
All right.
Since I
That's
mentioned that they just added 2 more games, and a fairy got its wings back. So
nice, man. Nice.
I feel was okay.
It's like I don't know who he is anymore. Oh,
So
man.
segueing that into VR, that was no kind of segue, but
No.
we know that Jason loves VR. I've dabbled, but I'm not no expert. And then Josh, have you tried VR?
Against it?
You're against it?
I don't want to say.
Threw up
I
at
don't
yourself.
Yeah, I don't. No, I'm
Let
just
the
an
debate
actual-
begin.
Right?
No, it's hard for me to not get motion sick. I guess in the same way, Jason, you feel about some first-person shooters.
Yep.
Right.
Okay,
So,
but let's pretend, Josh, that you don't get motion sick. Would you be all about it still, or would you still be kind of eh?
Well, I mean, Jason was talking about porting old stuff. Like, I would play me some Doom, maybe VR now, and then
Yeah.
maybe that's a good segue. Some of those games that aren't so darn quick. I don't want to. That sounded really old. Jeez, I'm sorry about
Yep, sure did.
that. That's too darn quick for me now.
Yikes. His
No,
eyes don't move like they used to.
yeah, They're already gone.
Well, okay, let's ask Jason then. What could make VR more mainstream where it could reach people like Josh or even me? Because my son was all about VR, but I'm not ready to make the purchase. Though I've tried it and it has blown my mind, but I don't know that I would necessarily drop the money right now. But what could we do to get Josh to put the money down?
So not just Josh, because he's not that important. The big
Oh,
scheme
okay.
of things, right? I love you, but
I am part of this market.
you're
I
right.
am an influencer.
Oh, Jesus.
His money's the same
just
as anyone else.
yeah,
Are we
just-
influencers? Is that who we are right now?
That's what
We influence each other.
Yeah.
That's not good. Especially this guy is with the sleeping pills and the wife. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Watch your drinks.
Oh, right. Put your hand over the top. So there's a few things, in my opinion, that would make it more appealing to the mainstream. And to be honest, some of those things I don't want it to do. One thing
Like
that
what?
would make it
Okay.
very appealing is to have the same regurgitated games over and over. Okay, like I just said about open world first person shooters, if VR was just full of that, I think it would be very appealing. And I don't want that. Like there needs to be a platform where people can be inventive and expressive and not be so confined to what makes money. And in my opinion, I think VR is that. Okay, so when like there obviously there's first person shooters on there. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of army shooters, right? There's medieval, shields, swords, bows, and stuff like that. But because it's you are actually doing it, that right there makes it completely different than what consoles and PC do at the moment. Okay, and actually not just at the moment, will ever be able to do. Okay, so like in a literal sense, the thing that VR does, there's no other medium that can ever do it.
Right.
Right? So because of that, they don't need to conform to get people in. Be what you are, and that literally is your lane. No one else has it. Okay? When you're talking about consoles and PC, especially because that gap is so close now, I mean it's close, right? Like it honestly is
Yeah.
close now. So
Yeah.
what one does, the other one does, and then vice versa. It's not like that with VR. So that's my first thing is you want to pull people in, be who you are, be what you are, and don't conform. If you want to pull people in, then regurgitate the same exact things consistently. And then next thing you know, you'll see releasing on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, VR. Right? Like to me, that's how you get more people in. Now, if I'm not being so facetious, the things that I think hold a lot of people back from VR is the motion sickness. Right? So I know, Josh, you experienced that.
Yeah, I guess it just depends. Like I tried this like rock climbing one on the PlayStation VR.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool. I got the hang of it, and I was like, all right. I kind of felt the immersion and like where it was going. But after like 10 minutes of consciously trying to not fall over,
Right.
from what I was seeing, was just like scrambling my brain. So I don't know if that's just like a part you kind of just have to power through, just like you would be getting used to a new controller or a new set of controls.
That's part of it.
And
That is part of
and
it.
maybe in that certain game was just moving too much. I think some of it is just like you said, that like you're seeing your eyes move and you like moving your head, but then like you don't actually move your body or take a step in where you would. So it kind of like crosses some wires, and then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, and I do have what you would call a sensitive inner ear or balance for like motion sickness. So
Ooh, sensitive inner ear.
yeah, yeah, can't put me on a boat or nothing, man.
I'm actually with you on that. So.
Yeah. So, but see, you do the VR okay, so there could be more of just that. equalization period that you kind of got to go through that I haven't, because I've never really bought one because of it. The short spurts of experiences I've had, well, I've just been like, I'm in it, and I'm like, okay, 10 minutes, I'm out.
Right.
Like, and then when I sit down and play games, normally, like, I sit down and I play for
Yeah. Like,
3
let's
hours.
go. Right. Right.
So
I understand that.
that's us. Like, I put it on and I can only take 10 minutes of it. I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of cool and novel. Maybe I haven't found the right game for it. Like you said, like
That's a
it's
big part of it.
because I think Destiny would be awful in VR. I think like Call of Duty, like Warzone would be awful
Mhm.
in VR. Like I
Well,
would like nah, because there's no way you can compete. You can't be like, I would assume, that good at VR as people could be with their Twitch on their fingers.
but that's why people like it, right? Because it's one thing, if I'm playing a fighting game and I can, I know without a doubt any Street Fighter game that I play, I know where I put my weak, medium, and strong so that it's quicker for me to access them, right? I know
Yeah.
that this is always, on the controller, this is always my hard kick, my strongest kick, medium kick, and this down here is always my light kick, right? You're going to set yours up completely different, right?
Right.
But we're playing the same game, right? In VR, if you like apply that to like a shooter where you set your control up a certain way, I set mine up a certain way, right? But in VR, you're having to do this, right? You're holding this one, you're holding this one. You actually have to aim down like a real gun. So people that are better at firearms, in real life seem to do better in those games. So there's a certain amount of actual training, right, that applies to this. So people who have that and like those type of games like to apply the real world application of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So like with the boxing game, like again, as someone who's fought before, like I know how to frame punches properly in real life. So being able to do that in the boxing game in VR is awesome, as opposed to playing Fight Night where you literally are just kind of going at it with,
Right.
this is strong punch, this is weak punch. You know what I'm saying? So the difference there, I definitely understand why people are kind of afraid of that medium. But knowing you as long as I have, knowing the type of shooters that you like you would love Onward. Onward is a military tactical shooter, and it's
Yeah.
all PvP, but you're on a squad. You would love that game. I mean, you probably won't be in the living room low crawling, right?
Yeah,
Or
to
maybe
that
you
point,
would, right? I don't know.
I feel like the way VR is now, though, just like the headset, and then you have like the independent
The touch controls.
handles, right?
Mhm.
Like I feel like I need the whole thing to, if we're gonna go that way. Like it's all in. I need the pedestal where I can put the belt around so I don't fall over, and I want not just the two little handles. I want a full like plastic mold like AR feel or something. So
Okay, so
we're in here. I got the black light in the room. It's all mood
I
lighting
gotta
and
be
everything.
honest.
We're going all the way.
They have things for people like you. Um, what that means, I don't know, right? But for people like yourself, they
I
have.
want the foot pad so you can run.
You don't need that.
Yeah, well,
But at the same time, though, like if you play in a large enough space, it really is all you need. I guess what it is, it's about getting away from looking like in the real world. Once you put that on, that becomes your real world.
yeah,
Just kind of wrapping your mind around that. So if I have my, if I got an AR and then I crouch down, I'm crouching down. Like in real life, I look like an idiot, I'm sure, right? But in the game, I'm crouching behind a vehicle. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of just, it's allowing yourself to look like a goofball in the real world, but to have fun in game.
Yeah, I mean, I've played. I think it's called Zero Caliber.
Yeah.
It's a military shooter where you go through and it's a co-op thing. It's kind of like a terrorist hunt.
Mhm.
Go through this little town and clear it out, kind of thing. But you're right on the movement part, Josh. I've gotten used to where the two joysticks controlling your kind of legs
Yeah.
like you would on a game,
Mhm.
like a regular game. But then the little the small movements of yourself doing it in real life.
Yes.
So you can kind of do both. And like,
Yes.
if you want to lean around a corner, you know, move over here, but then lean your body and it reads all that. I mean, you could crouch down and you could shoot over cover if you want. You can shoot behind you while you're running forward if you want.
Yep.
I mean, it really tracks all of that, and that stuff's really impressive to me.
Because of that, and as much fun as I have with my headset here, and you know, I have a couple different headsets. At first, I wasn't as impressed as I thought I was going to be with the Oculus 2. It really is. It's impressive though. Like for what it does, the price point is crazy. And they just released the second iteration of this with the face pad that, you know, is supposed to not make your face fall off, which is always impressive. You don't want that.
When I just read an article that they're doubling the memory size on it for the same price.
So yeah,
I don't know how accurate that is,
the
but
standard is 64 gigabytes of space.
Okay.
Just, and you guys know this from consoles, games are becoming a lot bigger.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you've got Red Dead 2 was 128
If you only have
gigabytes.
more of them.
So
Yeah.
but they're releasing the standard model now is 128 gigs. Like this is
Cool.
256. So I mean I think that's great. It
That's
sucks for
more
people-
livable.
Yeah, it sucks for
Yeah.
people who bought, you know, the 64 for that same price point, and now they just did what they did. What can you do though? But again, I think for accessibility, is there a way to make everyone not have motion sickness? There is not. Just like there's not a way on first-person shooters to do that, right? I can play them on the PC just
Yeah.
fine. I can't play them on the console with this joystick. Just it's horrible to me. Like as soon as I sit down with it, I can play it fine, but after 2 minutes, I'm sweating. Like my eyes, like tracking everything on the screen. Like I'm starting to get like, oh, put me on that.
I
same
don't get
game.
motion sick, but I feel fatigue real fast on the VR. Like, you know, if I'm playing for an hour, I'm done.
So
I don't feel sick, but I'm very fatigued.
The one thing I will say for, okay, so they call it your VR legs, right? You do have to work through some of the, you know, because it's awkward. It's going to be. It's something that your head is not used to. So I always tell people VR legs is the equivalent of you being in the passenger seat facing the other way reading a book, like in a car that's going 70 miles an hour on the freeway. You're going to be like, oh my God, right? But if you stick with it, right, after a while, you're like, okay, I know to just read and not keep looking up and seeing things pass me backwards. So essentially the same thing. The more that you do it, you know, for short intervals, you'll be fine. Personally, specific games, I take like a half of non-drowsy Dramamine and I'm good to go.
There you go.
Okay, like I'm fine after.
Do you sit or do you stand?
It depends on the game. Like for Half-Life, I'm standing because the game is just so mind-blowing. Like you'll find yourself wasting time just like looking around like this is the most amazing world I've ever been in. Okay, so what you were saying about Destiny, I think with Half-Life, it feels that way, where you really feel like you're not just like you're transported into this world, but the difference is you're actually in the world. You're not watching it.
That
unfold.
would be pretty dope to look at,
Yeah, man.
like the art of the game and, you know, all the graphics and the details that they could put in, you know, into that. You know, my head is finally on top of the character and not just looking at the gun on a flat screen.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of their skyboxes and stuff, you already do that in game. So to then like have that at a perspective when you're actually tilting and looking at it, I could see how that'd be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I just worry that the game is so fast moving and jumping and stuff like that. I don't know mechanically.
No,
So-
they build it where it's not.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
They have certain games where, and I got to be honest, most people who want to introduce you to VR, in my opinion, they purposely introduce you to something that is so wild that they want to see you fall over. Right? To me, that's the equivalent of, all right, son, it's your first car. This is called a Lamborghini, right? Like what you wouldn't do that, right? You're like, son, this is a Datsun, right? You got to push start it, right? So that you can understand driving. So when you start with VR, you don't start with something where you don't start with Spider-Man because that's rough. That's rough. You think,
Yeah, that's how I started with that dang climbing game that had like you
yeah,
would you
that's
would climb up like the rock face and then you
mhm,
get up that and it's like ding cool level 2 and then so then you go across and then finally you're just like across this cavern on a rope and you're trying to like hand over hand on it
no.
and you're like it gets in the hand and it's like
Yeah, I don't want to do that in real life.
I w-
So,
yeah
yeah.
I was like leaning and falling
Well,
over.
tell me what you guys think about this. I think for a mainstream purposes, like for it to hit where it's selling like a Nintendo,
Mm,
I would compare the VR to actually the Nintendo Wii, the original. Because when the Nintendo Wii came out, you saw that thing fly off the shelf, and that was because not just gamers were buying it, but grandma and grandpa and,
right.
people that you've never seen play a video game all of a sudden are playing, golf and boxing and stuff on
Hmm.
there. And it was because it was less of a video game and more of interactive
Yeah.
experience. And I think that's what VR has going for it because we've shown VR to my parents and people that don't normally play games and they still have a blast. Do
Hmm.
you think that VR would benefit from trying to sell to people that don't normally play video games but want a cool experience? Or do you think that would be like a flash in the pan
Yeah.
and it would be
I,
a waste?
my personal belief,
Yeah.
I think that there's an underlying thing that we're not talking about, which is part of the problem, is that inherently people are lazy. And with 90%, if not more, of VR, you have to do something. Okay. So why would I get up, put this on, and actually move my arms like I'm in high school, right? And do jumping jacks? That's too much like exercise, right? Like that is the absolute truth because most people that had a Wii who got them like, right out the box, they're like, oh, it's got Wii Fit and it's got, the Wii board and the Wii this and that. And how much of that stuff was used past like, the
Yeah.
first month? It's because you realize quickly I gotta
It's
do
work.
something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so do you feel like if they made some kind of VR experience that maybe wasn't even connected to your head, but something you sat in because people are lazy, but do you think that that would sell better if it was something you actually sat inside and just sat with a controller
Uh,
and got the VR experience that way?
because of what VR is, I think that it is. I don't want to say it's pigeonholed into having to have you be physical with it, because that unfortunately that's a turnoff for a lot of people. But
Right.
if you trust me, if you don't want to play Creed, if you don't want to do a boxing game standing, you do not want to do it sitting.
Yeah.
Okay, right? Like
Right.
so, it's kind of VR is what it is, and to me, they don't apologize for being what you are. This is your lane, so don't conform. That's how I feel. Okay,
Right.
because as soon as you start doing that, you start getting the watered down like nonsense. Most people already think that. You remember like when the cardboard thing came out and you put your phone in it, and everyone's
Yes.
like, "Yeah, I have VR," and that's not this. Like that
Right.
experience is not this at all, but people still associate the two things.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
would you say that that as technology maybe gets better, that you would think that maybe more people start to pick it up? It's not super affordable either.
I mean, it can be, to be honest. So look, this is a system. This is a VR platform, and especially with the innovations that VR makes and the different manufacturers in the side quest community. And for people that are into VR, you know what side quest is. I can't even come up with the amount of games that are playable on this. Okay.
Yeah.
So this again, this is its own system. Just like Xbox and PlayStation have their own ecosystem, it's its own ecosystem. Okay. So
Yeah, and that right there could be plugged into your PC or it could just be used standalone like that,
yeah,
wireless.
I do both
You don't
things.
have to have it connected to your computer.
No.
That is the system.
Like I'll
It's
tell
hanging
you,
off your face.
the other thing that I did with this, which I don't necessarily suggest people, in the professional realm to do it, but I did. In a past life, I was a senior video engineer, and I have my own business, and through that business, I do a lot of live streaming and stuff like that. I used this and created multiple screens for me to do work in, and I did the entire show with this on. Because like I have 3 screens ordinarily, like physically here, but with this, I can do what I want to. Right? Like the limitations that it has are not the same type of limitations you have with a console.
This sounds eerily like the Lawnmower Man.
I'm
You're
so
going-
hoping to be like in that machine that he's in, right?
Some road, right?
As long as it doesn't cross over into
He's
that.
like, I got 12 screens on here, guys.
I have a whole video wall of screens,
Yeah.
right?
So I can change it. He's
Do
like,
whatever I want to do. It's my
"Here, you see
reality.
this video wall. We go into VR, and each
what?
panel is a pixel.
So what doesn't help is that. Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
that won't get you mainstream.
Jake, you're asking me what would help. That nonsense right there. Okay.
Oh my gosh!
Again, I'm gonna edit him right out.
I could just see you just like
Uh,
tumbling in that thing, going around, becoming. It's like just becoming the internet.
So
I don't know.
again, there's just it's okay to have your thing. Like I really believe that.
Yeah.
Like with handhelds, do we want handhelds to go away? There's a part of the population that says sure. There's a part of the population that's like, no, like why would they? It's its own thing, right? It's its own thing. So to become more mainstream, keep doing what you're doing, create experiences that you literally can't have anywhere else. Like, how many movies that I've watched in 3D on this? On like a 180-foot screen,
Yeah, that's cool.
right? I make the screen as big as I want. I do whatever I want to do. So just the options that, you don't have on other platforms. Again, I agree, the motion sickness, that's a thing, right? But so is hand fatigue on controllers.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
I would get sick watching movies or stuff like that on it. And there's different applications. I guess that would open things up
It definitely does, man.
a little more. So
It definitely does. But I'm telling you, there's just going off of what you said for Destiny. Just imagine
yeah,
being inside of that world with your 2 other companions. There's nothing like that. There's no...
Yeah, I think a lot of people that don't have a lot of experience with VR just think of it like, well, yeah, you could see everything around you. Like with the sound and with the 3D world that you're in, you're in it.
You're actually in it.
You're in it.
So that's what I'm saying.
It's pretty wild.
It literally is its own thing. Like the similarities between consoles, we know what they are.
Yeah.
There is none for this.
Yeah.
Be what you are. Just like in real life, right? For all of us.
I might hop off of here and play my Sons. I don't know. Like it's getting me hyped.
Hey man, nothing like being in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got to call first and make sure Samantha is okay.
Yeah. She's still sleeping.
She's probably sleeping.
All right. Well, we're out of time. This was thanks for joining us on episode 14.
Yes, thank you guys.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
give us
you
likes,
both.
give us likes and views
Yeah.
and subs.
Tell your friends. Follow
Yes.
us on Twitter, 702 Gaming.
Yeah, tell your parents, your kids, we're clean. We don't even curse. Oh,
We
Not intentionally.
yeah. I'll edit it right out.
All right, guys.
All right.
We're out of here.